My name is Miles Gibbons. I'm the percussion support specialist here at Roland Canada, and I'm very excited to show you the new TD-17. So the TD-17 is our new midline kit that has a lot of high-end features taken from our TD-50 flagship line. So if you're new to playing the drums, you've got your eye on that stage or that recording session and you want to get yourself there, this is the kit that will bring you there in as little time as possible. And if you're a veteran drummer that's been playing and gigging for a long time, you've got lots of great sounds and great features that give you a lot of versatility with this kit for all kinds of live and studio situations. So in terms of the actual physical kit, we've got our trusty PDX-8s, CY5, CY8 cymbals. Fantastic. They feel great. They're very quiet, so they won't disrupt your neighbors. And we've got some new pads brand new to this kit. So we've got the PDX-12, which is a larger snare pad. So all of your regular snare techniques, cross sticks, buzzes, flams, playing in the center, playing in the edge, those are all accessible to you on a size that's a little bit more authentic to the acoustic snare drum that you might be used to. We've also got the new TD-10 kick drum pad, which is new and improved for better feel, more rebound, more consistency. And we've got the FD9 foot controller, which gives you a little bit more of an authentic feel that you would get from a hi-hat stand on a traditional acoustic drum set. So these three new pads really add to the playability and the tactile experience of playing this kit. It feels really great to play on. So most of the new features are incorporated in the TD-17 module. We've got Bluetooth connectivity, brand new to Roland. We've got the idea of layering samples. So you've got multiple sounds assigned to each pad, and that function in different ways. You can bring in your own sounds as well. We've got user sample importing. So before we get into that, let's talk about the native features in this module. We've got great practice features. We've got Metronome. We've got playing along with songs. We've got 50 preset kits with great sounds in all styles, from rock to jazz to electronic to experimental. And we've got the ability to edit all 50 of those kits, as well as create your own bank of 50 user kits. There are hundreds of sounds in the module that you can choose from, ranging from traditional recorded acoustic sounding drums and cymbals to percussion instruments. We've got some of the iconic Roland sounds like the 808 and 909 sounds. We've got percussion sounds, special effects. So let's take a closer look at the TD-17 module. One of my favorite things about this module is how simple and efficient the layout of all the buttons and features are. If you are not blessed with the technophile gene, or if you're a really young drummer, it's really easy to navigate this module and find the features or the sounds that you're looking for on this main panel. So this main knob in the middle will cycle us through our 50 preset kits and all the way up to our 50 user kits. So it's very easy to cycle through and find a sound. The main navigation buttons are to the left of the knob, and you've got enter and exit. So it's very easy to get into menus, get out of menus, and move around within them. Up top, we've got some sound knobs. We've got volume control on the far right. We've got bass and treble in the middle, so you can EQ the master output or the headphone output of the module. And we've got an ambience knob where we can dial in how much reverb we want. We can have no reverb, full reverb, and anywhere in between. We've also got three buttons here which change depending on which menu we're in. In the main kit menu, we can use the far left button to turn our cross stick function on and off. And then we've got a mix volume section here where we can balance the level of the audio input, the click track, the internal song against the drum kit sounds that we're playing. Let's take a close listen to some of those sounds right now. Let's take a look at a kit that's kind of oriented more towards a jazz approach. So kit number 3, which is called Compact Jazz Combo, gives you a nice warm bass drum and snare drum and toms, lighter sounding cymbals that will allow you to get that airy jazz kind of tone. The next kit I'll show you, kit number 20, is more of a percussive type kit. It's called Unplugged, and it features various percussion instruments, for example, a cajon on the floor tom, and various hand percussion instruments, as well as traditional drum set sounds. So in terms of a more electronic sound, I'm going to show you kit number 49. That one's called Deep Groove and Percussion, which gives you more electronic program type kicks, snares, and hi-hats, as well as bongos to give you a more kind of house style fill sound. So let's take a look at how easy it is to edit or create kits in the TD-17. So this selection of 6 buttons is our sample sound editing suite. If you hit the assign button, we can choose what sound is applied to each pad. So once the assign button is selected, strike a drum or cymbal, and it will select that drum for you to edit it. Once you're in there, you can use the top function to select which bank of sounds, whether you're in toms, kicks, snares, hi-hats, etc. And then you can page down with the selection button to choose which of those sounds you want. So we've got hundreds of sounds, and any sound can be applied to any part of the kit. This H and R on button at the bottom left of the screen will select whether the head and rim are affected together or they're affected separately. If head and rim is on, and you apply a tom sound to the tom, it will apply a tom sound to the head and a rim sound to the rim. If I deselect it, I can choose a different sound to apply to the rim. For example, I can put a percussion sound like a cowbell or something like that on the rim. That's very easy to select with this H and R on or off button. So once we've selected which sounds we want on each pad, we can hit the level selection, which works the same way. We hit the button, we play the drum that we want to affect, and we can use the main knob in the middle to adjust the volume of that drum in the balance of the kit. So we've also got a pan function here where we can choose how far left or right the sound comes out of the master output. We've got a tuning button where you can, again, select which drum you're playing on, tune the drum up or down in terms of the pitch, and this is, of course, independent from the head tuning of the actual pad itself. So you can have a really tightly tuned pad with a really low tuned sound coming out, which is very handy for playability. We've got a muffling function where we can choose between different levels of muffling. So if we want a really dry, controlled, tight sound, we can apply lots of muffling, or if we want things wide open, we can leave that deselected. So if we go into the other menu, we've got a whole selection of editing suites that we can choose from for how the ambience knob affects the sound. We can choose what type of reverb we have, what type of reverb room we have. We can hit the send button to apply that reverb differently to each drum or cymbal. So we can have lots of reverb on our drums and little reverb on our cymbals, or vice versa. The choice is totally up to you. We've also got multi-effects, which I'll get into a little bit later in terms of how those sound, and that works very similar. We can use this central knob to select what type of effect, and each effect has a bunch of different parameters, from how wet or dry the sound is, what EQ the sound is affected by, etc. We've got an on and off button, so we can sort of preview what that effect is going to sound like against the dry sound, and we've also got the same send feature like the reverb or the ambient setting, so that we can apply effects to some of our drums if we don't want it applied to all of them. So that's super handy for getting really creative with your sounds. We can go in and EQ our pads individually, and again, the idea is that we can activate the head and rim so they're EQ'd differently, or we can deactivate it so they're EQ'd the same. We can turn the EQ on and off with the touch of a button and select different EQ for each pad. So let's get into some of the interesting features that we have on the TD-17 that I mentioned before, like user samples, layering, and the idea of adding effects to our kit. So the top right button of the sample editing suite is very exciting. This is our user sample selection. So for the first time ever in a midline V-Drums kit, we can bring our own sounds. So WAV files can be imported. You can import short percussive sounds, you can import loops, whatever you'd like, and that's all accessible from this menu. So you can scroll through the sounds that you've already imported. You can preview them with a touch of a button, so you don't have to assign them yet. If we bring in our menu, we can import new sounds. We can change how those samples work, so whether we want them to be a single shot mono sound, a single shot poly sound, or a loop that we can activate and deactivate with a hit. We can do that in our play type menu. We can adjust the start and end time of a sample. So if you import a sample and there's a bit of empty space at the beginning, you can go into this to trim that out, which is very handy. You can rename the sample, delete the sample, renumber it, so you can sort of optimize the workflow of your samples that you've imported as you begin to import more samples. So I'm going to get into a little bit more about how that works later. And lastly, we assign these samples the same way we would assign our regular samples. So let's take a kit that I've designed using some of my own samples from my band's record, taken right from our master tracks. So this one uses some samples that I've imported on the toms, and I've also imported a loop that I've applied to the ride cymbal pad, because there's no ride cymbal in the song that these samples come from. So if I hit that, it's a loop that will stop as I strike it. So any sound can be looped if you want to apply sound in that fashion. So the toms that I've imported, they're also going to respond to the different velocities and dynamics that I play. So as I play harder, I'll get more volume out of that. So here's an example of me sort of recreating the drum part from that song using the TD-17 to play something that was originally programmed. And the last kit that I'll show you here is just an example of how we can apply multi-effects to whatever drum kit we're playing. So I'm going to switch to a more traditional sounding drum set. I'm going to go into the other menu and select multi-effects where I've got a distortion selected. I'm going to activate that, and using this distortion effect to totally change the sound of the drums, and the kit will inspire me to play in a different way than I might normally play. So one of the most exciting functions in the TD-17 in terms of editing and customizing your kits is the ability to layer several sounds on one pad and have those layers interact differently. So I'm going to hit my assign button, my snare is selected, and I'm going to hit the sub menu on the right button underneath the screen. So this brings in our sub menu. So in this menu, I can choose a secondary sound that's layered on top of the traditional sound that I've assigned to the snare pad. So I'm going to scroll through here and I'm going to find something else. So I'm in my sample banks, I'm going to select sound effects, I'm going to page down, and I'm going to select a house clap. So now when I play the snare drum with the layer type set to mix, there's always a clap layered into the snare drum once I select sub on. So if I change the volume or the fade point, I can change how much of that clap comes in. So I'm going to bring the volume of that clap up a little bit so it's more prominent. So that way the two sounds will always work together. Another great way to use a layered sound is to use the fade function. The idea with the fade function is that the layered sound will only come in at a certain velocity. So for example, if I want my main snare hits to have a clap, but my ghost notes to just be snare, I can select the fade function. The fade point will be the velocity level that the secondary sample comes in. So you've got two different fade curves that will have the secondary layer interact differently. And the last way we can have the sublayer activate is with the switch function, which, depending on what fade point we have, we'll have the secondary layer take over. So at softer volumes, our main snare sound or whatever sound will play, and at louder volumes, our secondary layer will play instead of the main sound. So I've got a secondary kick drum mixed in with my main kick drum, so I've got a nice fat 808 style sound to kind of give me some additional low end, and that's always mixed in with the kick drum. I've got a hand clap applied to the snare drum that will only kick in at a certain velocity so that my backbeats have hand claps, but my ghost notes don't. That's using the fade layer. And then my hi-hat, I've got a tambourine mixed onto it. So that just gives you a bit of diversity in your sounds that you can use. So the sky's the limit when it comes to what you want to layer. If you want a kick drum layered on your snare drum, you can have that. If you want bongos layered on your toms, you can have that. And of course, with adding your own user samples, there is literally no limit to what you can have layered on top of another drum. So if you're new to drums, if you're just practicing, if you're learning something new, or if you just want to just increase your skill level, you've got a bunch of great features that will help you do that. So first and foremost, as drummers, it's our job to hold the time down, and practicing with a metronome is probably the best way to practice that. So we've got a click button right here. It takes us right into a metronome menu, very easy to find, very easy to access. We can turn it on and off with this far right button. Our menu allows us to choose a different rhythm, a different type of beat. So if you want to play in 4/4 or 3/4 or 7/8, it's very easy to access different time signatures. So if you want to play in 6, you can select 6. You can have the metronome play eighth notes. You can have the metronome play triplets, etc. So quarter notes, eighth notes, triplets, sixteenths. If you want to work on your accuracy in these different rates, you can do that. We can select different sounds. So if you want our metronome to sound differently, we can have that. The metronome be played, it's a woodblock sound, we've got electronic sound, so all kinds of different sounds. So you've got a nice comfortable sound that you enjoy playing along to. You can also, of course, change the pan of the metronome. So if you just want the metronome in one side or another, you can select that with the pan function. Very simple. So everything's very easy to access and very easy to adjust. So beyond practicing with a metronome, we've got a bunch of great coach features here. So we've got 3 exercises that will help you improve your timing beyond just playing along with a metronome. The time check is great. You turn it on, you start it, and a metronome will sound. The next move is to play along, and the meters in the middle will tell you how accurate your kick drum and snare drum hits are. So that's a quick 4-bar example. I've got a score of 88 out of 100, and you've noticed as I'm playing along, you can see every single kick and snare note that I play, I'm getting a visual representation of how on top of the click I am. So I can see if I'm dead on, if I'm a little early, a little late, so it's very easy to see if you're rushing or dragging. So you can go into your menu and select how many measures you want the exercise to be, basically how tough the metronome is going to be on you. You can have it grade you a little bit harder or easier depending on kind of how comfortable you are with your own timing. You can, again, go back into your click menu here to choose the sound that you're playing along with. And that gives you a bunch of great ways to sort of improve your overall timing. So if you're working on a new beat, new groove, you can really make sure that your timing is on point. So another great coach function that we have is the quiet count, which again, very easy to select the start and menu functions. We start it, it's going to play the metronome for a few bars, and after a few bars of the metronome sounding, it will play a silent bar. So the goal is to be able to come back on the beat perfectly with the metronome after the silent bar and not rush or drag, and you'll get a score for that as well, just like you get a score for the time check. So the last practice feature that we have here is the warm-up, which if we access that, we can go into our menu, choose a duration of time, a grade for how easy or how hard the metronome is kind of gauging our timing, and then a max tempo. So what we do is once we activate this, we can start this, and over the course of 10 minutes, or whatever time you've selected, the metronome will take you up and down in tempo to make sure that your comfort level with these different rates and different speeds and different time signatures, you retain a comfort level across all of them. So those are 3 great features to help you improve your time and get a great sensibility of your progress. So in addition to playing along with the metronome and these warm-up coach functions, we've also got a song selection right here. So we've got many ways of playing along to music on the TD-17. So we've got internal songs built right into the module, which have a dedicated play and stop button on the front panel. Very easy to access. Once we've got that going, we can turn our guide track, which is our metronome, on and off. So it'll be a little bit easier to keep time if we've got that on, but we can work on our internal sense of time by turning that off. We've also got a mix volume section here where you can choose how loud or how soft the song is in the mix. We've also got a record function built right into the main panel where whatever song we have selected, we can record ourselves playing along with it. So this target function allows us to choose whether we're recording the entire output, so the song and the drums, or we can choose just to record the drum part. And these things can be exported to the SD card that we have in the module. So it's very easy to turn on the record, start recording, stop recording, etc. You can preview your recording right from this. You can delete it, or if you want to export it to the SD card, like I mentioned, that's all very accessible from this main menu. So we're going to delete that and go back into our main song menu. So what we can also do is access songs from our SD card by hitting the far left button. So I've got this short example that I've uploaded. It's already built right into the SD card. The module will play it right from there, so it's as easy to play from the SD card as it is from the module. Very simple. So we can, in this page as well, adjust our mix volume, record to an SD card, etc. So there are several other ways to play along to music in the TD-17. We've got an auxiliary input in the module, so if you have a headphone output on your tablet or phone or any other device that plays music, you can connect it directly to the TD-17 and have that music come out of your earphones or whatever speaker you have plugged into the system. The mix volume control will again control the volume of the input and balance it against the volume of your drums. And lastly, we have Bluetooth functionality, which is brand new to the Roland V-Drums line. So if you have a Bluetooth-enabled device that will play music, you can sync these things wirelessly and play along to your favorite YouTube video or song right from your device through Bluetooth. So once again, I'm Miles Gibbons, Percussion Support Specialist at Roland Canada. Thanks for taking the time to check out the brand new Roland TD-17 with me. For more information, you can visit www.roland.ca or www.longandmcquade.com, or visit your local Long and McQuade to get a closer look at this kit and try it out for yourself.